Good afternoon. My name is Jeff Harmon. I'm a systems engineer for VIAVI Solutions. Today's presentation will be IPTV testing using the HST-3000. The HST-3000 can test IPTV circuits one of two ways. It can test it off of the XDSL or any of the DSL menus, either XDSL, VDSL bonded, or ADSL bonded. This is where you're going to go in and emulate the DSL modem as well as the set-top box. Today's presentation, we're going to emulate the set-top box using the Ethernet TE selection. Now the nice thing here is setting up your IPTV is the exact same whether you're doing it underneath the Ethernet TE selection or one of the DSL menus. The first thing we need to do is we need to make sure we set up our network IP. So I'm going to go up here to Ethernet TE network, and right now it tells me my network is up, and that's primarily because in order to get the HST to display I have to bring the network up. So you'll come into a screen like this. Right below the cancel key there on the left there's a configure key. I'm going to press configure, and it tells me my emulation type is terminate. I'm IPOE and I'm IPv4 for my emulation right now. I don't have any 802.1x security turned on. And stun is not enabled. I'm going to press the four purple keys before I get going. I'm going to refer to those as F1, 2, 3, and 4, just so I can call them something. I'm going to press the F2 LAN button, and you'll notice I'm set up for a static IP. That's what this network in this lab that I'm working with is using. If I want to change that to a dynamic, to a DHCP, all I do is press the number 1 key, select DHCP, and press OK, and it will go out and try to establish a DHCP address for you. I'm going to stay with static. You can see that I have my IP address and my subnet mask and my gateway built in. If I wanted to change any of those, I simply have to highlight it, press the OK button, and I could go in and overwrite or put in what I need to put in there. Once all that is established, on the top of the HST you'll have two LEDs. One is sync, one is data. Now they don't show up on my screen here, but both of them are green, and you want to make sure that they both come up. Now I'm going to press the cancel key. I'm going to cancel back out here, and you notice that it says Ethernet TE and my network is up. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to arrow down to number 3, or I could simply press the number 3 button for video streams, and it's going to launch in there. Now the first thing we've got to do is we have to make sure all of our Qos matrices are correct. So you have pass-fail thresholds that are set up in the HST-3000 for testing your IPTV circuits. You basically have two types of networks. You have a non-media room network and you have a media room network. So the HST comes defaulted for a non-media room network. So what you'll do is right below that cancel key there's a configuration key. We'll press configure, and the first thing that happens is it comes up and it gives you your video and tells you, hey, we're terminated, we're normal, we're using IGMP version 2, that's our channel change, we have forward errors correction supported, we have MOS supported. Now on the video quality of service, this is where you have you start to get into your pass-fail. Now a lot of service providers, they're not quite sure what these numbers should be. So a lot of people use our defaults, and that's okay, but we're not saying that they're going to be perfectly good for you. Your network engineers that are working on your IPTV network will know what best to make these settings at, but we should be pretty close. Now when you get to the MPEG quality of service, couple changes you need to make. If you're in a non-media room, the default for PID timeout, that's your packet identifier, will be 500 milliseconds. And for your PAT, PMT timeouts, it'll be 1000 milliseconds. For a media room environment, I've put both of those at 1500 milliseconds because that's the type of environment that I'm in right now. So these are two changes that you might have to make if you're in a media room. If you're taking PID timeouts and PAT and PMT timeout errors, doesn't necessarily mean the circuit's bad and that their customers getting pixeling and things. Those are typically selections, and just your thresholds weren't exactly right. Making sure we have those, I'll press the cancel key. Now, number 1 is your broadcast type. Folks, make this easy on yourself. Leave it to auto broadcast. So if I press number 1 here, there are many different types of broadcasts. So auto broadcast will go out, and the HST will go out, and it'll figure it out for you. You could have MPEG-2 transport broadcast UDP, or RTP, or an ISMA broadcast, or your ISMA video on demand, RTS. So there's a whole bunch of these. And again, mostly in the US, we have RTP broadcast and we have UDP. So if you don't know, simply leave it on auto. Number 2 is the IP address. Now, unfortunately, you just can't put in ESPN or CNN or whatever channel you want to go to. Each network, those IP addresses are going to be different. Now, so I arrowed down to number 2 here. Oops. Arrow down to number 2 here. And I'll press the number 2 button. And it allows me to come up and put my IP address in. Now, the IP address here I have is for ESPN. So I'll press OK. Now, that's for stream 1. To add stream 2 and stream 3, the HST will do 3 streams. I can arrow down, and now I'm on stream 2. And again, I have an IP address in there for stream 2, which I believe is CNN. And then if I arrow down to stream 3, I have USA networks built in, already programmed in. Now, one other thing that you can do is you can come over to your channels, that's the F4 key there, and you can build your own channel guide. So as you can tell, I already have ESPN built in, but if I wanted to add another one, all I do is press number 1, Manage Entries. I can add, and this one's USA. Press OK, and I'm going to do an auto broadcast, and I'm 224.4.10.249. So now if I press my channels here, I actually have 2 channels, and I believe you can build in at least 10 channels. I've never counted it before, but this makes it easier for you all to put your own addresses in there. I'll drop the F4 key. I'm going to go up here. I'm going to bring up stream number 1. So I'm going to press the OK key. I go active, and it tells me my stream is up. My error message is OK. It also tells me what port I'm on. If I arrow down, stream number 2 is idle right now. If I press my OK button again, it's going to go active. My stream is up. I'll arrow down to number 3. Now number 3 is up. Now I can look at each stream's information independently. I can't look at them as a whole. So to do that, I simply arrow up and down to whichever stream I want to look at. So in this case, we'll look at stream 2. Now here's the hard way to do this. Always show the hard way first. Your F1 key says display. If you press the display key, you will get a drop-down menu of all the different things you can do. The set-top box emulation, your stream quality of service, your RTP, your loss, and all this statistical information. Now, you can press the F1 key, arrow down to which one you want, and press OK, but I'll show you the simple way. The simple way is to use the right navigation key, just to the left of OK. So the right arrow key, if I press the right arrow key one time, now we're looking at Video 2, the quality of service. We're looking at PCR jitter, that's your program clock reference. We're looking at your RTP packet loss. We're looking at your error indicator. And we're looking at the latency and leave. We haven't left this channel. So it's right now it's at 0. Now, most of all of these statistics I will explain in another video that will be called MPEG-2 IPTV Fundamentals. So as we start to bounce through these things, I'm not going to go into what each one means. That's in the video. That's in the fundamentals video. Next thing we come to is Video-Rtp, and we start talking about distance error and period error. And what that means is packet, if you watch a circuit long enough, you're going to drop packets. Something's going to happen. So if you lose a packet here, you lose a packet there over time, it's not such a bad thing. There's recovery systems in there to recover those, so hopefully you don't get any pixelization or anything like that or any freezes. However, when you start looking at long strings of errors, those become a problem. So in this case, what we say is our distance error is 50 packets long, or 50 frames long. And we have a period of, we don't want any more than 5 consecutive packet losses or frame drops in a row. If that happens, then you're going to start to see these counts. Now, if I arrow to the right one more time, then I can start to see, hey, what was my actual loss distance and errors? Even though I said I don't want any more than 5, and your period errors and things like that, you'll start to see, hey, if these things are really running errors and the customer's complaining about pixelization and things like that, or picture freezing or very slow channel change times, this is where you would see that information. Arrow to the right again. Now we're looking at the total number of packets, so we can see how many packets we've received. We can see what our current jitter is, what our max jitter was, your IGMP latency, that's your channel change. So how much latency was there when we connected. And if we had any gap errors, the maximum total gap, things like that in milliseconds. So we start to see a lot of the statistical information. Arrow to the right one more time. Now we're looking at our MPEG-2 transport stats. And again, the program access table, program map table, program indicator, all of these things are explained in the MPEG-2 IPTV fundamentals. Your sync errors, your continuity errors, your PCR jitter. Your PCR is your program clock reference. That is what is linking or syncing your audio and data and video all together so that you don't get lip sync issues and things like that. Arrowing to the right again. Now we can actually see our video 2. We're looking at video 2. We can actually see what our total rates are. How much video versus audio versus data versus everything else that might be, that might be bringing in data or using data. We can see what our averages were, what our minimums, what our maximums were. Your video 2 PID map. Your PID map tells you all of the different elements that are contained in that channel, such as we're looking at CNN right now. That's video 2 that I have here. So we can look at our program access table, or what our program map table is. It'll be PID 66. What our video is, what our audio is. You may have multiple audios, you may have multiple videos, you may have multiple datas on there. If you have multiple audios, it simply means that, hey, they're broadcasting in different languages. And then in that case, you'll probably have data in there for closed captions, and you may have multiple datas in there for different types of closed captions. So there's a lot of these things that can get built into these PID maps, but it just helps you to understand what is actually in there. Arrow to the right one more time. I can actually see what the video totals are for my video rates. And this is combined. Now when we go to the error log, now we start to get an idea of, hey, if something's not happening, if we're getting jitter, we're getting packet loss and things like that, we can start to see, hey, if we're moving from good to fair or fair to good or good to poor, what the case might be. You have a log of the statistical information here. Now the nice thing is you can press the F3 key there and you can actually save that log. Now if you save the log, it'll save it internally to the HST and put it into the file manager. If you have a USB stick plugged in up top, then it will save that information right directly to your USB stick, which is much easier to pull off and try to look through. So I'm just going to cheat here. I'm going to press my F1 display key and go back up to number 1 set-top box. And we're back. Now if I wanted to look at the statistical information for stream 3, all I got to do is arrow down to stream 3 and press my right arrow keys, and I can go in and I can start looking at all that, the same information that we saw. Now I'm going to tear these circuits down. The way I do that is I'm going to press the OK button again, and the OK button will tear down stream 3, but stream 2 is still up in operation. I'll tear down stream 2. Now it's back to idle, and I'll tear down stream 1. So now everything is back to inactive, and I'm back to idle. Folks, I hope this was helpful today. I appreciate you attending, and thank you very much.